Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Susie Barrett. My guest today is none other than Ryan Rosenberg, co-producer of this very podcast. Ryan is a phenomenal improviser. You know him from Grande, his sketch and improv group. You also know him from ManDogPod, which of course is an online improvised sensation. Ryan trained at UCB and was on a couple of Herald teams there. He was on Belmonte and then for 6 years was on the Dragons. And if you've ever seen him improvise, you know he has a wonderful talent for playing a likable straight man or voice of reason character. He and I talk about that, and he has some really incredible insights about that process and how he frames it and views it. There are quotes from this conversation that ring in my ears, so I hope you enjoy it. Remember to also head over to the Instagram page at YesAlsoPod to see some pics of Ryan from his comedy career. And now, here's Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Suze.
Welcome to your house.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you see it differently from this perspective? Now you're over on the chair.
Yeah, I usually am sitting where you're sitting, and so I do feel a little bit like a guest in this chair.
When you were a kid, did you ever flip upside down on the couch and look at like the yeah,
totally
pretend like you're upside down and the ceiling is the floor?
Yeah,
this might be like that.
Yeah. I do feel a little bit off kilter.
In a good way.
In a good way, in a really good way.
Good.
Yes.
Let's get into it. So, you're the producer of this podcast, so you're always here. You've heard a lot of these conversations.
That's right.
Is there anything like from the sidelines that you're like, oh, like that's particularly?
It's just been really fun to hear everybody's story into it and how they're all so different. But then once everybody gets there, we have like learned this common language. Yeah. And so it's really cool to see what everybody has in common, and also that they're very different and a snowflake, and you know what I mean, like
a very special snowflake that deserves a trophy. And
yes, totally.
I love that a word like snowflake is now political.
I know.
And rainbow, snowflake.
Dude, snowflakes are so pussy.
Yeah,
like that's what it means now. It's like they're a magical thing in the universe.
Yeah,
what are we talking
like
about?
One of the most special aspects of nature.
Yeah,
we have to reclaim it.
Right.
Okay. Break down your origin for me. Funny kid, not a funny kid, shy kid, not a shy kid.
Very shy, but funny. So being funny was sort of my way in. You know what I mean? Like I feel like relatively well liked because I always felt like I was nice and definitely led with humor and like always wanting to have a good time. My parents divorced when I was like 2, so I think I grew up in like a pretty tumultuous for the early years, you know what I mean? Like when they were thinking about it and then getting divorced and whatever. So like the first...
Did they make sure you knew that it was your fault?
Yes. As a baby, I definitely knew what was going on for sure and all that stuff. No, but I think, so like early school, I was going from one house to the other like every week. And so it was just kind of like maybe a little disorienting. Mm-hmm. And so at school... Anyway, so I felt like I was playing like mediator a lot in my family, and humor was like a very helpful thing for that.
Disarming people, diffusing any awkward situation or any tension. Yeah.
Yeah. So humor, like first, I didn't know this until years later, but like first was like a defense mechanism, like a way to feel safe and a way to like make people who maybe were not that happy be a little softer, like if one of your parents was scary, you could like use humor and like they would involuntarily soften, you know what I mean? So like I always saw the value in it from that. Again, didn't learn that consciously until years later. But
they say that that's literally the origin of smiling, and like primates do it too, like to show that you're playing and laughing.
Right.
It like puts the other party at ease and lets you know that it's not.
It's like, hey, I feel good.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you feel good?
Don't you want to mirror me? And we naturally mirror as a species. So like if you're being loose and calm and fun, or at least on the surface.
Terrified, but showing that.
Yeah. It is a way of like, it's a literal defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think,
interesting.
And then I use that a lot in school. Like I was just like very humor forward, I would say. Maybe in lieu of other personality stuff. You know what I mean? Like, don't really know who I am, but I'd love to make you laugh.
Who do you want me to be?
I'm a different person for each one of you guys.
Yeah.
I know what you like and you like and you like. And I'm sort of performing that all the time.
And I'll pay tens of thousands of dollars in therapy bills to try to unravel this later.
Yeah,
but for now,
right.
we're going to have a great time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least you are.
Right.
It's going to look like
God.
I am, but you will.
So, yeah, let's get into that. Were you not enjoying it internally, or was humor also like a respite for you? Like while you were joking?
Yeah. I loved it. Like I was obsessed with Mad TV and SNL and Eddie Murphy and like The Nutty Professor was like a huge movie for me.
I still have never seen it.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I mean, he does one of those scenes where he's all 8 characters at the table, you know, and like huge makeup and huge choices. And it's like ridiculous. But as a kid, it's so fun to just watch somebody making those comedic choices. Like
Totally.
So that was really fun for me. And like Austin Powers and Ace Ventura. And I was just very into comedy, maybe as like an escape of like, this is fun. I can put this on at my house and that's fun. Both of my houses were safe and nice and good, and I have 2 lovely parents, but you know, it can be difficult when it's confusing, and like comedy was definitely like a safe place for me.
Yeah. You listing that all of those movies in a row makes me realize like that the genres, like that genre during that time period was very big. Like huge character, you know, the Austin Powers, all the Mike Myers stuff.
The Mask, Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
totally.
Right. Yeah, and Eddie Murphy doing those big, the clumps, the Nutty Professor stuff. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that was the time of like huge comedies because they only cost like $10 million or something, but it could feel like a big movie.
Those were the days.
I know, but now it's like, no, you're never going to see that.
Right.
Which is crazy. It feels like they still could make so much money, but
yeah.
I don't know about the business.
Man, I wish you did. I would
Me
really
too.
love to talk
I
about
know.
the business.
I wish I did for both of us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you figure it out?
If anybody knows about business, call us and help us with the podcast.
At 1-800, we don't have a phone number. Yes, also pod@gmail.com. So you're definitely using humor at this stage. You're having success with it. Does it occur to you like, oh, I want to do this, or does that not come until later?
I think I didn't really have ambition for a long time. I think I was just like, I'm enjoying this in the moment. Like I remember sitting around the kitchen table and just like making my family laugh. Like I would do like all the characters from Nutty Professor, which is cute as a little 10-year-old boy. Maybe not me now, you know what I mean? I wouldn't still do that. But yeah, I would just do all the voices from all the movies and was quoting stuff, and I guess I got such a kick out of it that I assumed everybody else did.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I thought of it as a career immediately, but it was like kind of my whole life. Like I don't know that I was a comedy nerd, but it was just because I didn't know about that. You know what I mean? I didn't have any friends that were like into it, or my parents definitely weren't into it.
And the internet wasn't a factor yet.
No.
Yeah. So comedy fan, but not nerd.
Yes.
So when did it creep in as I want to do this, or I want to do improv? Did improv come to you first?
Improv was the first bit of I did some open mics when I moved to LA. I went to Long Beach State. I grew up in Northern California, and then I went to Long Beach State because I always wanted to come back to Southern California, but I was like into it for the beach. Like I wanted to surf and I wanted to like be a beach guy.
Really?
Yeah, and I did surf for a long time. Like, and it was
any
really
tribal
great,
tattoos under that shirt?
You should see my whole back. Yeah.
I
No,
should
I
see
wish.
your whole back. Why haven't I seen your whole back
I just
yet?
haven't shown enough people my whole back tattoo. So yeah, I went to Long Beach State, and then while I was there, was kind of trying to decide on my major, and was gonna do business. And I took a calculus class my first semester, and it really did not go well. Like I was a year ahead in math in high school, but I wasn't like ambitious about it. I was just like, oh, this comes easy to me, and so I took senior year off of math, and then freshman year of college or whatever, first year, I took calculus, having like not practiced math in a whole year.
How to add.
I forgot every single thing, and my teacher was really confusing. Anyway, my fault, surely. So I dropped that and took bowling instead, because I needed to keep like my minimum units for insurance. Yeah,
it was a real fuck you to that math teacher.
100%. 100%.
Look what you did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now I'm going to take bowling, and I'm still not even going to go to that very much.
Yeah, and I don't know what my score is because I can't count pins.
I can't.
So,
I have no idea. Yeah, I'm struggling in there too because of the math.
Right.
So yeah, I sort of had this like thing when I was in college where I was like, well, I've never actually gotten to choose what I study before. So maybe I'll try film. And because I'd always liked movies and comedy, and it was, I had gotten more into just like, oh, it's movies. I like movies. I like that kind of thing. And so I did like a film and electronic arts major in school. And then I had some professors that were like, you know, in the film industry, a couple professors that were like actually working, and they come down to teach us one class. And so it was pretty like first foot in the door kind of thing. And then I got a couple of internships while I was there, one at Sony working for Sam Raimi's company, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So I got to like work on the lot at Sony and like read their scripts and stuff. And then another one for John Davis Entertainment, who is like the guy who did like Predator,
Drew
and
Garfield.
Yes. Close. Yeah, he did like Predator and iRobot and all these like thrillers, Pelican Brief and stuff like that. But they were both just very cool, like drive up to LA, work in a cool office, and talk about celebrities. And
no kidding. Yeah.
It just all made it feel very like regular and possible. You
know?
And
when you're reading scripts as the intern, was that part of your job, or were they? Oh wow! So
it was like they were like, do script coverage, you know, and like if any of these are good, you know, read the script, and if the first 10 pages are good, let me know, or you know, whatever it is. But I didn't know how to decide if a script was good. I was just like, to me, this all looks like a tablet of screeds of different language, because it's like written in a weird format, you know, and like sometimes it's the stage direction where you're like understanding that like the writer is talking to you, and then sometimes it's the dialogue, and there's also a name above each line of dialogue that you don't read but you know.
Oh, good Lord.
So it's like a lot to sort of parse if nobody teaches you really, and it's really hard to go like, how do I read this? You know,
like you're telling me this, and my face is melting off, because I'm like, now that you're on the other side of it, like these college kids are being given that job, not being taught what a script is, and now they're the first gatekeeper for someone's brilliant movie to get made or not made.
Totally.
And it's either getting thrown on one pile or the other.
Work is just like factors of laziness. It's just like, I need to get this job done. I cannot read all these. Kid, you do that. Something will jump out at you. You know,
I like this one because their names all begin with the letter L.
Yes, totally. I totally I had no tact back then, and I remember like taking a big shit on scripts that they were like developing, like not realizing that like some of them were just like going around, and then some of them are like ours, and we've chosen to do this and whatever. And I was like, what was up with this giant movie? What? I didn't get that at all. And they're like, that's Dave's movie.
Yeah, the BFG.
Yeah, totally.
That's Dave's movie.
I was there right when they did 30 Days of Night. Do you remember that movie?
No.
It was like
the sequel to 500 Days of Summer.
Exactly, but a little darker. It's like Josh Hartnett or something like that. But I was just like in the office being like, oh, and that movie just came out that weekend, and someone asked about it, and I was like, oh, that stuff's like not for me. Like, I'm not a horror guy like that. And they're like, why are you working at Sam Raimi's? Like, I just didn't know anything, you know? Yeah. And so I was just being like honest and whatever, you know, just.
You're like, are these horror movies? Sorry, nobody taught me how to read a movie poster. I can't tell.
Totally. I feel like most of my career is just like a million memories of me putting my foot in my mouth.
Yes.
Like, because you want to be cool like everybody, because it seems like everybody's so cool, but it's actually just so regular. Yeah. And you just need to ask what you don't understand and whatever. But I would just try to be like, I totally get Hollywood. And it's like, how? How would you? You're from Long Beach. No, it didn't make its way down there. You don't know.
Rode up Sunset Boulevard on your surfboard.
Yeah.
Shut up.
You're sunburnt, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Take a break. Yeah.
Okay, so
yes, I was in my writing program and doing those internships, and then I moved to LA after school being like, I want to be a writer. And so I got a job at the Cheesecake Factory and was like, I'll write a script, or, you know, maybe find a writing partner, or thinking. I moved in with a friend who I was like, maybe we could be writing partners. We were like from different walks, but like
friend from college,
friend from like elementary school, high school, and then different places, but then came back together. And we didn't end up writing together, but we lived together. And then I took a UCB class. I was like looking for classes online, and I was like, oh, if I want to write, I probably want to write comedy, like, because that's what I've always been into. So maybe I should like take a comedy class and like see what people what is it? How do you do it? Whatever.
How funny.
Yeah.
What do comedy?
Yeah. Like, what would a class be? I guess I should like get in somehow, And UCB was just like cheaper than the Groundling. So I took UCB.
Wow.
And like, yeah, I could have been a Groundling this whole time.
blew
I
it.
probably would have just quit. Like if I went to the Groundlings as a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old and they were like, be bold and do characters, I would have been
Scary.
like,
Yeah.
no way.
Although you could have just whipped out your Nutty Professor routine.
That would have been a hit.
You would have graduated the first day.
Yeah,
That's 10
probably.
characters right there.
That's so true. God, I'm looking back and that would have been the right way to do it.
But yeah, how intimidating if you're just taking it to kind of like almost be an observer, it sounds
Yes.
like you wanted to study and see what people were doing to create their dialogue.
Yes.
And then,
I literally had no idea even like what improv was or whatever. I just looked up like comedy places. Like where would you take a comedy class? And then I found those places and it was like, oh, it's improv. Oh, okay. Like, yeah, I guess I've heard of it. I really loved Whose Line Is It Anyway as a kid.
Same.
Watched it like crazy with my mom and stuff. And so I guess improv did sound exciting because I was like, oh, I like that. I like Wayne Brady. I like, that kind of stuff.
You're that generation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't really watch the English one.
Yeah.
When that would come on, I'd be like, what is this old bullshit,
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's so good.
Yeah. Clive Anderson, baby.
Yeah.
With a lot of the same actors, like Ryan Stiles did that
Oh,
version
really?
as well. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Man, I missed out.
Ryan Stiles, Greg Proops were like the big American.
I love Ryan Stiles.
He's
I
great.
think he is so just naturally to the bone funny.
Totally.
So funny. And Colin Mockery, too. As a kid,
Yes.
I was like, he's too weird. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, he's doing that on purpose. Like, he's choosing to be weird.
Yeah.
And he's a genius.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys are so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you're in your UCB class.
Yes. I'm in my UCB class, and I'm really intimidated. I'm like so shy. So like, the comedy thing was always like defensive a little bit for me. So I wasn't really ready to be like, in general, I've noticed in improv, I more like respond than I do initiate. And so like, I would say that's a general theme in my life of like, what's the situation here? Great. I can fit into that.
Including
and make it better and
how
whatever.
you started comedy in the first place as a
Exactly.
child. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
A reactionary. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tactic.
So I've always felt more like a straight man and more like a logician and more like someone who can like make sense of what's going on, which is really helpful because if the audience doesn't know like what the scene is, they can't pay attention.
Right.
So I always like gravitated towards that part, towards like the logic and making it work, and maybe got a little too call-outy earlier in my career, just being like, what are you doing? You're crazy, that kind of stuff. But class was always fun. I took like 101 through 401 like right back to back, like 3 days in between or something. Once I knew that I liked it in 101. And so I like zoomed through all the levels and started doing indie shows and just really fell in love with it and fell in love with like having friends again, maybe. Like I moved to LA and I was a little scared, and none of my college friends like moved to LA from Long Beach. So I definitely needed some like belonging and like, oh, cool, funny people, which was really exciting.
Yeah, that's huge. And the improv world is sort of its own college campus. No matter what theater you're tucked into.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to shows, you're running into people, you're going to like dinner afterwards or whatever. You're seeing the same faces each week or several times a week. Yeah.
And then once I got through like 401 and I met my friend Richie Beenan. And he introduced me to you via this like one practice group that he was in. And he was like, oh, you're fun and funny. Like, you should come to this. And so I went, and it was weird. Just like a weird pairing of people, you know, when it's like everybody bring their one new friend.
Yeah, it was a real hodgepodge.
But then.
And it was in that like amazing house.
It made me feel like, okay, LA's cool. Like, it was like a beautiful house in Sherman Oaks. I think like the person we were doing improv with, her husband was like a fancy cinematographer. Yes. So they were like,
they had
well
a pet
off
wolf. Do you remember that?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, a lovely memory for sure.
Yeah, and she was so sweet and wonderful. Yeah, but that is exactly it about LA, where like even from the second you get here, you have these weird experiences where you glimpse the other side. You're like, someone's like, when I first moved here, I house sat for someone who was a working actor and like very successful.
Right.
So it's like I got to live in her house for a week at a time and have use of her hot tub in the Hollywood Hills. And like,
oh, it's not that far away. I'm 1 degree.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm 1 degree.
Because there wasn't even like houses like that in my hometown. Like
Totally.
it was a very nice suburb where like all of the houses on my half of town were like new and nice and like, 4-bedroom homes but it was just like track home.
Yeah.
Like lovely.
Like most places.
Yeah, like most places.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you go into like a nice house that's built into the hill and whatever, and it's like, it's unique. It doesn't look like any of the other ones. There's like jungle-y stuff. It's like
Charlie Chaplin might have sat on this very toilet.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving to LA feels a little bit like living in Disneyland.
Totally.
It's like, like the dream that I had is just kind of over there, and there's some over there, and like, it's really intoxicating when you're someone who's looking for something,
for hope, for encouragement, for some strand of possibility to follow.
Yes.
Right.
Because I had done open mics when I was doing those like internships and like coming up to LA. I would go do the open mic at like the Improv, and really intimidating, not friendly. It's like you put your name in a hat and then there's like 40 people there and then they draw names and the first 20 they draw get to go. So immediately 20 people just leave. And then as you're going, everybody does their set and then they leave. So if you're like last up in that 20, it's like you performing for like 2 other bad stand-up comics who are like not generous laughers. And it's like when that's your first experience with comedy, you're like, this isn't fun. Yeah. Nobody here is nice. Everybody here is scary, like is a scary personality type, just because there's like grinders. It was just, for my little kid brain and whatever composition, I just wasn't ready for that.
I'm the same. Like I feel too sensitive and thin-skinned to enter that sort of lion's den. There's plenty of super nice, loving, wonderful, generous stand-ups that I know, but like, in general, that vibe, that gauntlet you have to go through, I don't think I have the balls for it.
Well, and I've noticed that the further up you go in any sort of comedy, the nicer the people get.
Yeah.
But at the bottom, it's bad people who are not succeeding and not understanding why. So they're like bitter and angry and fighting. They're like that crabs in a barrel mentality of like, well, you're not going to go if I can't go. Like
zero sum. Only one of us can make it. Or And
that's why improv was so refreshing, was to be like, whoa, everybody here wants friends.
Right.
Everybody here wants to work with me, literally. Everybody is like curious about your ideas because that's built into the product.
So because that was my experience too. Like in the beginning levels of improv, like people were super sweet and super like everyone wanted to gather everyone to do practice groups and stuff. And that was your experience too.
Totally.
So so is the difference that improv is a team sport? So by its nature, it is already like setting you in a, like the room itself is friendly because we all are playing together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's just a more fun medium. It's not necessarily a funnier medium, but it is without a doubt more fun.
Right.
Like it is a group of people playing versus someone being defensive to the audience. Like it's just built into the medium.
Even if you take like anger, defensiveness or whatever out of stand-up and take like the best of stand-up, it's still solo and it's still like someone working out on stage, like something that they've already come up with or a written joke or just an idea, but they've come in with that versus the sort of permeability of like we're all open to anything. And I don't want it to sound like we're shitting on stand-up.
No, it's just a different thing.
It is different. And there's a sense of fun and play obviously with improv because it's like, well, we're gonna make each other laugh and like
painting and photography are both good, but you have to have like
way
different
photography is
interests.
Way better.
I agree. It's a sharper image. It's like there are some times where like I don't want to watch improv. I would much rather watch a well-rehearsed stand-up. Yeah. And like it's not about quality, but improv is more fun. Like there's more license to have fun. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like the goal isn't really to be perfect or to impress everybody. It's more to like connect and have fun. I feel like it's a much more connective experience with the audience rather than a combative experience with the audience. Like they don't show up, and even the difference between sketch and improv, same sense of humor, but the audience shows up going like, all right, what'd you prepare? And like a sketch can really die in a way that an improv scene really doesn't, because like we know, like, it's just a different contract. It's a different contract with the audience.
I feel that even with auditions, like I so miss auditions in the room where you can just, you walk in and you do the scene, blah, 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 and it has like a vibe and an energy and you can make adjustments. But like a self-tape to me is the worst in the world, because when you send that tape in, it's not a tape, but yeah, that file, you are saying, I had all weekend and this is the best that I could do. Right. When I watched my takes back, this is my choice. And it's like, it's never good.
No.
Like it's, yeah.
Because I'm not an at-home actor, director, writer.
Right.
I'm just an actor. And now I had to like direct this thing, and you know, I quite honestly don't have a good enough attitude to sit here and do it well.
Right.
like no, my performance was good. I hope the video shows that.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough.
I hope anyone watches this. But sketch, I think maybe it tilts towards that feeling where it's like, we had time to prepare and rehearse, and this is the best we can do. And then it sets it up.
And there's nowhere to go.
There's
nowhere to go.
Oh,
like
nowhere
in
to
improv,
go.
you can bail and go like, we get that you don't like this. Let's do something new.
Right.
And like until you bring that into your sketch, it's really impossible to be good, I think. Like,
how do you bring that into your sketch?
You just don't really care about doing the thing you wrote. Like,
meaning like you drop the lines and you switch.
It's more like be additive to the lines, I think. Like you can improvise within that sketch that you, so like maybe the sketch gets 1 minute longer, but it was already going to be long and bomby. Like either you bail on it and you just take a minute and a half out of it by like running through the lines, but then it's like, oh, you're running scared from the audience. To me, you're just managing whatever the energy between you and the audience is, right? So like, if you go like, well, yeah, the written words aren't good, but we're still funny, you can like fudge it a little bit, or you can start to like fuck with the other performers, and then the audience sees that like at least you guys are having fun knowing that this idea is not good, and you're still giving something to the audience.
Yeah,
rather than going like, well, we don't care about you. We have to really focus on the piece, and then that's the only thing that you're sending to the audience is this stressed out idea, which is like what bad improv is.
And that you're married to yourselves rather than to your union with the audience or the contract that you have to be there.
Yeah, we're here to entertain you, but I'm not always right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the audience is right that this isn't good. And you go, oh, I also agree with that. Let's change it a little bit here, you know? Like,
yeah. The only sketch I've done was like so regimented. We weren't allowed to like really deviate. So that's so interesting to hear.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it only works live, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's different contract with.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. I want to talk more about sketch too, because I think that's such an interesting facet of your career.
Yeah.
That you're like doing both. A lot of people do both, but okay. So you're doing these practice groups. You're loving the community.
I did improv boot camp taught by you and Jim, which was like my first that was like for me, my real college experience, because I saw people intentionally every day studying a thing I wanted to study. Like I got that a little bit in film, but I was like, oh, you guys are pretentious. I'm not going to do anything. Just annoying people, you know what I mean? Like the film major is a tough group in my opinion. But anyway,
tough. Just
it's like it's all about being really cool, but no one has ever worked in the industry that they claim to be so cool about. And it's like, what, you read the right blogs? Like, just the, you know, it's like early snobbery.
Yes.
With very little education. So it's
just
like,
name dropping, deep cut films that they've seen.
The deeper, it's like the more obscure you are, the better you are. And it's like, but you are a bad artist. Stop. Don't talk down to me. I've seen your work. You read in here and it gets crickets. Like, stop pretending to be good at this.
You just don't get it. The crickets get it.
No, you don't get it.
No, I make work for the crickets, and that's what you don't get.
Okay, it's genius. Never mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can I have my script back? That's my only copy, and I can't. No. Oh, wow.
You deserved it. No,
that's how it was meant to be consumed.
I have a lot of. I had a mixed bag in school just because it was like, yeah, everybody wants to be it, but no one's done it, and it's just so going to UCB was really great because that pretension was gone, and people were just there to have fun, and they're actually trying it, which felt really. That's what feels so cool about improv is that like you have to go like, well, we're trying. You can't really hide from the fact that you're trying.
Yeah. So how did you get over the shyness factor, and how long did that take, or are you still in it?
Absolutely still in it. Off stage, I'm not the same person that people see on stage. Like, I think I'm disappointing to meet after a show.
No.
Because I don't want to be that way. Like, I don't want to. It isn't for everybody, or it isn't. I don't know. It's different.
You don't want to be what way? Like, name how you are on stage.
That outgoing and that emotionally vulnerable. It feels like whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like on stage, because there's that like barrier of the audience and whatever, it's like a safe place to be fully self-expressive. But an important part is that barrier.
Yeah.
So when people come up to you just on the street and that barrier isn't gone, it's like, well, when the barrier isn't there, I'm a totally different person. I'm not those 10 characters you saw me do. I'm not some wacky guy. I'm a smart person, and I'm regular, and I'm not emotionally volatile. But on stage, I am. Like, because you have to be like, go with the flow, go wherever, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
You've got to be sensitive to having big reactions when they're called for.
Yes.
And,
But off stage, I'm not like that.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm just like, hello, how are you? Oh, good. Okay. Because I don't want to know everybody intimately. And like, I feel like the version of you that you show on stage is like pretty intimate. It's like pretty like, oh, I have unmasked and shown you like who I really am when I'm not trying to control it.
Well, also another difference is on stage you are interacting with people that you know really well most of the time. Sometimes you do jams and stuff where you play with other people, but like especially you play on these established teams, and Big Grande's been like a foursome forever, and like. So yeah, there is a difference between like I feel safe with these guys, and if they say I'm a spider, I'm gonna get on the floor and be a spider. if I'm gonna do a breakup scene with Dan Lippert, it's gonna be really emotional.
Yes.
But then like at the bar meeting a stranger, like how could you be that
totally
vulnerable? Yeah.
And I feel like with my friends, I'm like really outgoing and silly, and everyone calls me by my nickname, and they call me like Rosie or Rose, and I'm like, that's great because I like am that intimate of a friend with you. But then sometimes people who don't know me will call me by like my nickname, and I'm like, my name is Ryan for you. You know what I mean? It's like, excuse me.
In fact, I'm going to make it longer. My name is Brian.
Yes, thank you.
For you.
In first grade, I changed my name to Brian.
You did?
Yes. Just at school, I started writing a B in front of RYAN. And my teacher called my mom or whatever and was like, is his name Ryan or Brian? Or she's like, it's Ryan. I don't know what he's doing, but I don't really care, I guess. We'll see. And it lasted about 6 months, maybe, or a year. But I have
That's a long time.
It could have been 3 weeks. You know what I mean? I don't know. But in my mind, I just remember having like little finger paintings and stuff that had Brian written on it. Like my mom still has a few of them. And
incredible.
It's like, what was he doing?
What were you doing? Yeah.
It was so much cooler.
Oh yeah. Higher in the alphabet means you get in line first for recess. Yeah. Because they always do alphabetical by first names.
Of course, you get let out one by one for recess alphabetically.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get more minutes.
We remember school.
Yeah. Duh. Okay. So talk to me about finding your teams now, or did we skip a step? You got put on a Herald team.
Yep. I did boot camp. I was auditioning a lot for many years and not getting on. I think because of my shyness and like what I'm talking about, the like my comfortability with people that I know, I'm just a much different person with people that I know than I am with people that I don't know. And so auditions are really hard for me still to this day. Even just like a commercial audition is hard for me because I'm like, hello, I'm Ryan.
Is this how human beings
happy
smile?
To share 100%. Like I literally feel so outside of my skin every time I'm meeting someone who I don't already know. And
that includes meeting America when you're introducing them to a laundry soap.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's like, and again, it's like, well, what version of me do you want? Like, I don't know. It's too generic. So I can't really like, I'm always trying to kind of predict like, well, what do you need? Let me sort of be that or fill that thing or show up that way or something, which I've since worked on a lot in therapy, and it's not super healthy. But that is a lot of my wiring, you know? And so like, it's just hard for me to audition cold, or if I don't already know you or you don't already know me, like you may not see what's good about me for like 5 meetings. You know what I mean? Like, but then once you do, I commonly have the experience of people being like, whoa, I didn't know you were so funny, or I didn't know anything about you. And I'm like,
Well, this is interesting, and stop me if this is too vulnerable.
No, please.
But like what do you like about yourself, or what when you are in the pocket and you're feeling good and you're in the zone? What is that, Ryan, or what are those comedic qualities or those personality qualities? What are, like, rather than when you're like being something for someone?
I really, what I love about improv is like saying yes. It's like forced imagination. It's like you're being forced to use your imagination and go like, this is true and happening. So you have to live there and like make that feel true. But then you also get to go like, if this is true, then what else is true? It feels like asking a kid like, what's on your mind? And letting them ramble forever. And it's just being like, this free space to be totally creative without judgment. Like I really love that. So in improv, I really love like tags and taking it places and bringing in things that aren't yet part of the scene but make it way better, or like really sort of like boil down this thing and take it from a 2 to a 5 to a 10, you know? Like I really like playing with ideas. And I really like acting. I really like on stage, I give myself permission to like go places emotionally that I don't in real life, I think. And so I really like to lean into the acting, into the seriousness and the theater of it all, because even though I don't see myself as a very like theatrical player, I do see myself as like a very actor driven, like grounding the base reality, making it feel real. Like if this feels real, it will automatically, something funny will happen.
You're a very grounded actor in your scenes. Which is like, I think where a lot of your comedy comes from. It's so believable and it's so real, and you have these like very quick, like you're very sensitive as a player. So like your reactions come immediately. It's like, wait, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We can do that. You know, just like these little micro responses and like, hold on, wait, I need to back up, you know?
I think that's part of it too, is like, I have kind of like a fast brain, and on stage you can really be like rewarded for that because it's like clever and witty and whatever. But off stage, I find myself having to like slow down and go at the pace of conversation that I know.
Can we tag somewhere else?
I feel like everybody is, not everybody, of course, but everybody moves at a slightly slower pace than my brain wants to go. And so on stage, I really like to be able to go as fast as the whole audience saw that moment. So like we're allowed to go explore it right away. We don't have to be polite to the people like in the conversation.
Right.
Like we're more kind of considering what everybody else saw. Which again goes back to
let the slow people catch up if they.
Yes, it's like, well, now this is the new moment, so it's not really about whether or not you're following. You just are. And like in conversation, it can be like more like a tug of war of like, well, what are we talking about? Who's running the conversation? And it's like, I like that in improv, it's just everyone is saying yes, everyone is being creative, and nobody's being precious about whose turn it is.
It's almost like in conversation, the slowest person dictates because we don't want to leave a runner behind.
Mm-hmm.
But on stage, the fastest dictates the pace because they're the one like coming in with an idea, and now we all follow along.
That's the new reality. I guess we're there.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that because it allows me to run, I guess.
What a blessing that you have a fast brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes
that's
a
how
curse.
I feel.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, sometimes I was like, sometimes I have a fast brain, but sometimes I have a slow brain. That is me. But sometimes a curse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, as I've gone to a bunch of therapy and learned about myself more, I mean, I think it's pretty much, like ADHD type of brain where I think my brain is good at that. It makes a lot of good connections really fast and sees connections in the world naturally. And I can think in like a macro sense really well. Sometimes I have a hard time relating to people who want to just sit and talk about one thing for a long time. Like I do a lot of...
I'm so sorry. Should we go outside and point at stuff for a little while?
No. I feel like even in this conversation, I'm very tangential. Like, what were we talking about? What are we, And so like, it's sometimes hard for me to not be able to follow those tangents.
Yeah.
And on stage, you really get to follow every whim, and it's loved instead of being like, you're weird and annoying.
Yeah.
Why
you've left this conversation 6 times to talk about, everything from hot air balloons to antelopes.
Right.
Yeah. That frenetic, like, get everything on the table and then find the connections later to tie it in.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always had a good memory?
Mm-hmm. I have a really good long-term memory and a pretty not good short-term memory. I think because there's just too much happening short-term, but then I'll remember facts or not facts, but like images or whatever from childhood or whatever, so like very vividly.
So in an improv show, your callbacks are from like preschool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was the only one there, and nobody quite gets it, but man, they're good.
Yeah. You're writing a B at the front of words at the end of your show, and everyone's like, I don't know what this is, but it's probably brilliant.
Exactly. I mean, it must be too smart for us. Let's clap.
Let's clap.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you get put on, so you auditioned for years.
I auditioned for years, was not getting on because of my shyness or my unassuredness. Again, like when I'm with my people and I'm with my safe zone, I feel very assured and ready to go and ready to like do anything. But if I'm not, I'm like, is this okay? Am I fitting in? Is this all right? So I was auditioning, I think, for 5 years and not getting it and being really frustrated because, like, friends of mine were getting it. People that were not as good as me were definitely getting it. Not to be rude, but, it's frustrating to know that you're capable and not be able to show it, kind of. Because in an indie show, it would be very obvious that, like, I'm one of the good people and the audience is laughing and stuff. But I could just never really put it together when it came to, like, the specificity of game and scenes and stuff like that. I don't think I really learned how to play game until I was like on my 2nd or 3rd year of Herald Night, just because it's not really like you're kind of practicing it, but like it's not as regimented as it is on Herald Night. So in that time that I was not getting on, I was like, well, I still got to like do comedy. And so that's when Big Grande started, which is my like sketch and improv group, where we then did this big podcast and whatever. And that started because those 3 guys were working together on something, and I kind of asked, like, hey, can I be on your team too? Like, they were trying to make something, and I was like, hey, if you guys ever need, like, a director, like, we all have the same sense of humor, I would love to, like, be the person off camera helping or whatever, not knowing how to, like, actually direct and probably underselling that.
Yeah.
Totally. But then they were like, okay, yeah, that'd be fun, because I was kind of friends with all of them individually, but not really as a group, and they were friends as a group or something, and so then we started. And
you owned one of those big poofy hats from the 20s.
I had
one
the
of
right
those
hat.
Tall chairs with the
and
one of those
hat.
big megaphone.
Yeah, I was playing the part pretty well.
Yeah, so they had to hire you.
Yeah. So then we started writing together, and then it was like, okay, we're just all for a group and whatever, and So I'm really glad I weaseled my way in there.
No kidding.
But now
I had no
it feels
idea.
like such a foursome, you know.
Yeah,
now
the
it just
four of
feels
you. Yeah, you gel so well. You all have totally
complementary but different, and yeah, it's nice.
And the same sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And like something I love about you guys is like how much you make each other laugh.
Oh, it's just like that's what the real gift of the group is that we all have the same goal of like the funniest thing possible. And so like it's like a very accepting space in terms of like whatever you want to try is allowed, and we're all gonna try to make it, because like all of our ideas are good. So if you have an idea, let's try to find out what's good about it. And so it's, especially during the improv, it's like a very supportive space where everyone is encouraged to be as weird as possible, because that's where a lot of our best stuff comes out. So
do you improvise in order to find your sketch ideas?
It would be more like we would improvise writing the sketches. So like none of us were really like writers first. Dan was probably like our writer for a long time because he was the one who could like write like just put it into a format, and like we all had good ideas but we're all a little scattershot, you know, and couldn't really like identify it clearly. So Dan would really like filter our ideas into a lot of our scripts, but we would all just sort of like be in a room pitching until it would make us laugh, and then go like, oh, I guess that's the thing. So if that's the first beat of it, then what else would be like that? And just really like trial and error. So like the whole process was very improvised, kind of like we were just the first audience for it, you know, where it's less like I wrote this great thing, and it's more like, oh, this is funny. How do we play with it? So it's very playful, which is what I like.
Give me an example of like a seed of one of your sketches that you like. You come in with an idea. What does that sound like when you pitch it? And then what are you improvising?
We wrote a sketch about Sesame Street and like the writer's room of Sesame Street, and how like all their things are not that clever, or like Big Bird. He's just named Big Bird because that's what it is. But then we also thought the idea of like being really tired and like packing up your papers and leaving was really funny. So just like slamming your briefcase shut and leaving. And so we somehow put those ideas together to be like, wouldn't it be funny if they'd just been like working all week trying to figure out like what is Sesame Street? And then someone goes like, all right. What about fucking Big Bird? And then everybody just goes like, that's a day, because they're just so excited to have like any solution. And the sketch bombed. It's like not a good sketch, but we were like, we want to do something about throwing a bunch of papers in a briefcase. Like it's just such a funny physicality.
Yes.
And this thing is so stupid. Maybe they'll work together. So that was one of the sketches that we had to improvise through, because like what we intended to get a laugh on did not get a laugh. But the premise of the sketch was broad enough that it's like, okay, well, let's just play inside of this, you know, and like that, it ended up like working-ish. It's definitely not something we would do again, but it was fun to like make it work even though the idea wasn't good. You know, it's kind of fun to fail and save it a little bit.
Yeah. So wait, so to clarify, so you were improvising this in front of an audience based on the idea. Like but as a sketch.
We wrote it. We like wrote it.
Okay.
We wrote it, but then like very immediately was like the lines are not going to get laughs. The first big throw papers in briefcase and storm out they were like, "Oh, is that the funny thing?" And it was like, "Yes." So one of our big mottos for Big Grande is we don't care, but it's like wagging a finger at the audience, going like, we don't care. You think we care that we're bombing? We don't care about you. To try to like give ourselves the confidence that like we're not chasing the audience, like they have to come to us because that's what the show is. So like just really trying to own whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
As like, well, this is what it is tonight. You're going to eat dinner, are you? Or go home miserable if you'd like. But this is what dinner is tonight. Let's all enjoy it, you know.
This is what dinner is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that,
no, I do.
Like I can't serve anything else. If I could, I definitely would.
Yeah.
But here's where we are, and we're going to try to have a good time.
We're a pork chop restaurant. Yes. We don't have spaghetti.
Yes.
So you're eating a pile of pork chops.
Yeah. Enjoy the bread and butter then, I guess, if you don't like the pork chop.
I guess.
Or whatever. I don't know.
The bread is made of pork chops, and the butter is melted pork chops.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, totally. And I think that always helped us just be like, well, it's not about them. It's about us. It's about like, are we having fun? Then that will be infectious. If you're just worried about if the other person is having fun, then like, who are you? What are your choices? What are you doing? Like, how do you actually take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Which makes them feel taken care of, I think.
Man, it's so interesting because that's the inverse of your vibe of like, what do you want from me? What can I be for you? Mm-hmm. But like in that context, you are saying the opposite. Mm-hmm. We're having fun. We're doing what makes us laugh. You can join or not, but we don't give a shit.
That I feel like that's a little bit more like sketch.
Yeah.
And stand up. It's like, well, you know what? I'm fucking staying up here. Or like, fuck you. Like,
yeah.
It's like, I'm brave enough to be up here not doing well. I think like that's what you're sort of addressing. Whereas in improv, you can just change and be like, I'll just do well in this other way.
Oh, that's so true.
Whereas like when you're stuck with your material, you have to go like, I get it. I'm smart enough to know that this is also not good.
I hear the silence. Yeah.
And it's like, you don't want to make fun of yourself, but you do want to be like, I didn't lose you. I am aware that it is not working. You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
I didn't lose anybody. I don't like this either. And it's like, let's find a way to like this together because we still want to connect. We still want to have a good time, me and the audience or us and the audience. So like, what are we going to find a connection over? Because that's sort of the whole point of comedy is to like enjoy that not forced, but force the connection that people forget about every day, that we are all connected here and life is built on love and all that good stuff.
And love is mandatory.
Mandatory, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, not mandatory, but like
yeah.
You just forget that like that's available to you at any time.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about comedy is that like laughter is like this involuntary thing of like a reminder that like joy is accessible at any moment if you can be present and do it,
Yeah. And that at our core, we all want the same things. You can take the nouns away, but it's like we want security and we want basic safety and love. And
even people who are like angry all the time are like, I want it to change so that I can feel the way that we're talking about.
Right.
It's like we all still want the thing, but maybe you're just a little misguided on how you're going about getting it or, whatever.
Yeah. Do you know that thing that, or have you heard that thing that like every positive emotion is at its core, like rooted in love and all of the negative emotions are from fear. Mm-hmm. So like, guilt and shame are like, I'm afraid that I'm going to get kicked out of the group because I did something bad.
Totally.
And like, anger is like, you're afraid they're going to hurt you. So you defensively, But it's so great that improv as a world and as a practice incubates those love traits.
Yes. That's the beautiful part about it. It's still competitive and it's still entertainment and whatever, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah. So are you currently performing with Big Grande? Are you guys,
Yeah, we like every, 6 months or so, we'll put out like another season of our podcast, The Teacher's Lounge. Go get it on biggrandewebsite.com.
Go get it.
And that's a lot of fun. And it just kind of comes out whenever we have like the scheduling to all get in a room 7 times or whatever. And then we have one show a month at UCB. And those are a blast every single time. Like, not level of quality, but like we just haven't had a bad one. Like they've all been so fun.
You guys are so fun.
It's just a joy and it's easy and it's like I would love to perform every night with that group. So once a month is like tragically under, you know what I mean? But it's such a having to wait a month is like makes each one very special, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then we're doing we like go to other cities sometimes and play. Like we're going back to New York and Rhode Island in May of this year. And like whenever scheduling permits and stuff, I think now the challenge is like, how do we all do our own thing enough that we can all keep up with each other and like still work together? You know what I mean? Like we all kind of have to have solo stuff going on as well to strengthen the group stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean.
There's not enough time and scheduling to have the group be like a super regular thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, you can't just wait for every 6 months and that be the only thing you do.
Gotcha.
So
it strengthens the group to have your own stuff to keep your chops up. And
And like Drew has gone out and like become a TV and movie star and all of that stuff. And like, I don't want to just be like his friend who doesn't do anything except for that one thing every 6 months,
right.
you know? So it's like, no, we're all a group of comedians who are doing our own projects and our own whatever. And it's like, we're not all just a subset of the group. We're all really cool people on our own who are also choosing to be in a group together. And so I'm trying to focus more on that these days of like, what am I doing rather than waiting for permission from other people, you know?
So what are you doing to like keep
Great question. I wrote a movie last year that I'm trying to finish a second draft of, and I've done like a couple little solo sketches, and I teamed up with this friend of mine, Trenton Oliver, really smart, funny editor dude, and he has a drone, and so
that drone video you made is so it's one of the best comedic things I've seen all year.
Oh, thank you.
And
not
just 2024. I mean like calendar year, like 12 months.
Nice. Yeah. So we've done a couple of those where he's a drone operator and also like an editor director, and so we go out and I'm mic'd and he films on the drone and we sort of like shoot this fake travel video, but where I'm the host who is having bad stuff happen to him all day.
Just melting down.
Yeah.
We will link that on the Instagram. Yes. Also pod.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Thank you.
And you play that like downtrodden character so well.
I mean, he's in there, you know what I mean?
He's in there.
I am kind of, perpetually frustrated. And so that's definitely, it's like my Larry David, it's like, I'm always trying to be polite and make sure everyone's happy and whatever. And this is me if I'm like, some people deserve to hear it, and it's, it's always bad happening to me and, whatever. It's easy for me to play comedy from a place of like victimhood, like being hurt or somebody having mistreated me, or I feel like for whatever reason, the way I grew up or was raised, it's easy for me to straight man and be like the butt of the joke.
And to me personally, there's nothing funnier than someone trying to be high status, but they're failing at it, or like they think they're high status or they should be high. Like I used to, like nothing was funnier to me than playing like someone who's like firing someone, but the person firing them has like ketchup on their face, but they don't know it, or like a milk mustache.
Right.
It's like, listen, we really need to talk about, it's like, that's so fucking funny to me. And this drone video is the ultimate because you can't get more bells and whistles than like you're literally being filmed from the sky and it looks like this like pristine, flying over the mountains, gorgeous shot, and then down below you are losing
It really
control.
makes no sense. If you think about it, like why would they finish this video?
Right.
Why would they put out a video where the host was frustrated in every shot?
Right.
So that's what's so funny about it to me is like setting up the normal thing and then pulling the rug out with the joke. Like I love, you talked about like the groundedness of the way I play stuff. Like that's what I think is so funny is like you gotta make people believe that the thing is happening in the first place before you make the joke.
Yes.
And if they are already believing you, it's the perfect setup to go like, you idiot, look what it actually is.
Look at this.
I'm a big fan of that misdirection stuff.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't know what the trick is. Like there is no pulling the tablecloth out if you haven't set the table first.
Right.
If you just start by holding a tablecloth, there's no
and how much
joy.
Fun it is to set the table.
Yes.
Like setting the table is so fun. And I think that's what people don't understand. Everybody thinks the game of the scene, if we're getting really in the weeds of
Let's
UCB,
get it.
The game of the scene is like the crazy person acting crazy. To me, that is exactly one half of the game.
Yes.
The other half of the game is everything that they're ruining. And everything that I get to build for you to ruin as the crazy person is it's so fun for me to build a sandcastle that I know is going to get stomped on. Because the more ornate I'm...
Flag. Right. The more ornate...
And it's like, I get to be cute. I get to be like, oh, I get to play a character who's just excited to make this dish.
Right.
Like
hopeful and
totally something I would never show people off stage.
Yeah.
Me just being like innocent and happy, or being like, just really focused on my train set, or like any weird thing that's definitely in there or that you've seen someone do or whatever.
Really proud of your plate collection.
Yes. Or like, really proud of your son's accomplishment, but you have like a shit stain on your pants. Or like just playing the vulnerability is so fun because it's so true, but it's a place that I personally don't go often because I'm like a comedian who like, I get it. Just so you know, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what we're talking about. But that doesn't allow me time to just be like emotionally vulnerable in the moment in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
And so on stage, you can really sink into it.
Right.
Because they're there for whatever you give them.
Yeah, as comedians, we are trained to be the rug pullers. Mm-hmm. So you don't want in real life to like have the rug pulled on you. Yeah. That's not fun.
Right.
Like you want to,
Not at
be
all.
in control and interesting.
And that's what I like about improv is like it teaches you how to be conversationally funny without being mean.
Yeah.
Like you can be funny about the situation or what happened or the turn of phrase or whatever. And it's not about the other person you're talking to being stupid, which I feel like most of stand-up sense of humor is about like someone here is an idiot. And it's like, well, what if it's just funny that people want to be beautiful sometimes? What if it's just funny that there was a confusing moment and like no one's stupid, but that's just how the world is.
That's how,
It's like less ego-based.
They did their best and they failed. And isn't it funny how this
treat.
happened? Yeah.
It's like the comic tragedy of life rather than like I'm good, you're bad. It's like every joke is the same with you people. Stand-ups.
You people.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is how I feel. It's like you're not tired of this cadence. You're not tired of playing this character because it is a character. This isn't you. This is your little character that you've adopted. Why not play a million characters? Why not be in the moment? Why not
have a shit stain on your pants?
Yeah. And then tomorrow a spaghetti stain on the front and, whatever it is. Like, let me do this 5 different ways in 2 minutes. And I get to play so many different things and be so many different things for the audience and take them on a ride. And I don't know.
Yeah. You're really good at playing. So you addressed this a little bit a while ago when you said like you like being the one framing things. You like playing the straight man in a scene, or you're good at like, acknowledging the game for the audience. And you're, in my observation, like you're so good at doing that in a likable way that gives room for the quote unquote crazy people to do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
want them to do it.
Right, of course.
I want them to do it. And I think it's a life thing of like, why would I try to shut you down when you're doing the exact thing that both of us want to happen?
Right.
So why don't I play a character that is easily as frustrated, but easier to get along with so that you can do it?
Right.
If we just argue about that thing you did in the beginning of the scene for 2 minutes, I would have rather spent that time with you doing it more.
Yeah.
And so like, how can we set that up and do it more? Because that's how the game works.
So this is something that's really hard to teach, because we also teach that people should play like to the top of their intelligence and play close to themselves and react honestly. Mm-hmm. And often, I think a student's perspective is like, well, but I wouldn't let them do that again, or I would be angry that so how do you teach people out of that? Or what are your tactics for like, give me examples of like being that guy who's like frustrated but gives room?
I try to remind myself and the people that I'm teaching that it's like, we are working together as improvisers, but our characters are probably working against each other.
Yeah.
But even our characters should be working with each other most of the time until they can't, because they got to try so that they can fail. So we both have to try. We both have to try to be normal.
Yeah.
And then we both have to try to allow the unusual thing for a little bit. So it's like both characters need to have empathy with the fact that the other person they're with doesn't like things the way that they like them. And so it's like life. It's like everybody that disagrees with you, do you tell them to shut the fuck up?
Right.
I hope not. I bet you have no friends if that's how you live. So do play at the top of your intelligence. Like, deal with your frustrating friend.
Yeah.
And realize that you are frustrating to that friend as well.
And this, if someone else has come up with this, great. My brain just went, oh, we need to also be teaching play at the top of your emotional intelligence.
100%.
Right? That should be taught.
Totally.
Like, yeah. I know Ian Roberts used to teach us a lot about playing with tact always, which is that. But like, yes, the top of your emotional intelligence means you're going to accept someone's apology.
Yes.
You're going to forgive them. They did. My dad's being my dad again. And, because you don't want your life riddled with conflict, and you're not going to end a baby shower the second it starts, and you're not going to like leave your parents' house the second you arrive home. Like, you have to stay. Yeah.
Totally. And I became such a better improviser and just person when I grew as a person. like when I started improvising, I was like super call outy, super judgmental, super whatever. And I don't think I was playing at the top of my intelligence. It just wasn't very high up. Like I was very emotionally reactive. I was ready to yell at anybody who made me mad. I was
in life. You were doing that?
Yeah, like not yelling, but like I would get in fights way more. Like now I don't get in a fight. What? Okay, we disagree and I'm going to walk over here. Like,
yeah.
There's no point to like stay and be in a fight anymore. Like, I feel like I learned so many skills through like therapy and reading about psychology and all this other kind of bullshit that like you just have the life skills to be a better improviser because you're a better person, or not a better person, but like a more
mature
capable,
person.
more mature, whatever. Like, you don't have to like snap back at people. You can actually like take in what they said, think about it, and then respond as you wish, rather than like respond with the first thing that they made you say. And it's like, that was a big part of my getting good at improv, was like losing the codependent nature of like, well, whatever I do is going to be off of you. And for me, it's like, well, actually, I'm here to build my train set. What are you doing? Okay. Well, I'm going to build my train set. Don't bother me. Like, I don't care about you that much. I'm caring about my train set. That's who I am in this scene. Are you going to keep bothering me? Please don't. But like, if you're the unusual person, I'm not going to chase you around, because then I'm not being at the top of my intelligence.
Yeah.
You don't chase around a crazy person and try to convince them to not be crazy anymore. Something that I used to do in real life a lot. But now that I'm like, oh, like, no, you just got to manage your own energy, take care of yourself, do your thing right, and still be present with the people in your life. But you don't have to convince everybody how to be.
Like
or
that phrase, you can only clean your side of the street.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And I think that's such a good improv note of like,
Yes.
Stop looking at the other person to tell you how to do the scene.
Right.
What are you doing? And then the other person should ask themselves, what are they doing? And then we'll both know what we're doing, and then we can interact with each other. But if both people are nothing and nobody, and we're trying to call each other out, it's like, to the audience, nothing has happened.
Yeah.
We aren't anybody. And all we're sending them is the message that like, we are stressed out in this part of it.
Yeah.
Because we're not actually confidently, calmly saying anything of substance or value.
And it becomes two improvisers who can't agree what the scene is about, because it's like, well,
which is life. I mean, that's what most arguments in life are about.
Right.
I'm arguing this point. Okay, well, I'm arguing this point, so that point's invalid. But I'm arguing this point, so that point's invalid. It's like, well, they're both the truth. You feel this way, you feel this way. Until we can reconcile that, there's no more reason to have this conversation.
Right.
If we're not going to try to reconcile this, I don't need to talk to you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Improv scenes often devolve into a person trying to change the other one. And in life, we rarely do that. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that the surly bartender is not going to be changed by me giving him a 2-minute spiel about how he should be kind. Like, he is who he is.
The only people we do that with is like our family.
Right.
And it's like the
and even
everlasting.
then it doesn't work.
Yeah, even then the lesson is don't do that.
Yeah.
The lesson is manage your own life, let them manage their own life, and be there to help if they need it.
Yeah.
But making everybody be how you are is insane.
Yeah.
And I think most people operate like that.
So you keep using this train set example. So let's talk about trains. No. So this is a good note, like, or a good adage. Like, heading into a scene, you always have a thing that you are that's not dependent on the other character.
Yeah, I just try to think of who I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to play something in the scene. And who that is can be malleable based on who they are, because we need to make something that works. But
do you consciously give yourself a thing, like a train or like a picnic to pack or a...
Usually it's like more of a feeling, like based on if the other person's initiating and they seem like they're trying to trick me, I'm going to play someone who doesn't want to be tricked.
Yeah.
And then from that, I'll go like, okay, well then why am I here? I didn't come here to not be tricked.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. So who is this person and what are they doing today that this got in their way or whatever? So it's just about like, well, what is the truth here? Like, there wouldn't be a truth where a trickster is here and a fool showed up to be tricked.
Right.
So what is the backstory of this person? How do they end up here?
And why do they have to stay here? Because otherwise they'd just walk away.
Right.
So they're waiting for the bus. Their car's in the shop. Like,
the other thing that I teach or think about a lot is that, like, who is really the protagonist of this scene? Like, who is this scene about? The scene is about the straight man. And the antagonist showed up to ruin it. Like, the movie is Batman.
Yeah.
But it's a Joker movie. But you wouldn't just, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So you're responsible for, Batman is responsible for the base reality because that's who we're actually following. And then the other person is coming in and fucking it up and all that stuff. But even the Joker has to, like, firstly go like, well, this is Gotham City and Batman is the force here and I am going against Batman and I'm trying, you know, he has to acknowledge the rules of the world to even say, and I'm breaking those rules with chaos.
Right.
So, like, to be the person that sets those rules and be the protagonist is so helpful. And I find instead of being a protagonist, people go like, I'm nothing, you're crazy. And it's like, well, who are they being crazy to? Why does it matter? I don't care about you.
Yeah.
You're the protagonist and you're the least known character I've ever seen. Like, the leader of the scene is the straight man because that's who the audience is identifying with. So, like, it's your scene to do whatever you want, and they have to figure out how to be funny in it. Kind of. Because if I'm setting up a thing, you can be funny in it a million ways. Any way that doesn't fit. If I'm setting up nice wedding, you can be like guy who pigs out too much. You can be like loud music person. You can be like came in a wedding dress. There's so many ways to play a game in a real place. But if you're loud music guy and I'm like, turn down your music, what is the rest of the scene? We're not in a place. Nothing is happening. Nothing is true. Nothing matters.
And there's nothing to move on to.
And you're not unusual.
Right.
We are just two people who have equal different wants.
Yeah. In fact, now in a vacuum, now you're the unusual
Exactly.
one. In a vacuum, if someone plays loud music, why does that matter? But you telling someone to turn their music off makes, you suck.
Almost every straight man in bad improv is actually the unusual person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, why are you chasing someone around policing their behavior? That's what has become weird.
Yeah.
Normal people have stuff to do today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I even had to take that personal note in my life of like, oh, like I have some codependency. Like, what is everyone else doing? How can I be a part of that? It's like, what are you doing, bro? Why are you looking at everyone else for your identity, or like for them to tell you who you are, or even like being in Big Grande for a while was like a way for me to hide in plain sight of like, I'm in Big Grande. That's my personality, or that's my persona or whatever. And it's like, but who's Ryan? It's like Big Grande. You've seen our work, and it's like, yeah, but who are you? Like, what do you want to do? Well, hopefully Big Grande. And it's like, yeah, but that is a good question. Like, who are you? What do you want to do? What do you want to express? If you want to do comedy, what does it mean to you, rather than just like participating how other people want you to?
Yeah.
You know?
I can take a hint as your interviewer. Who are you, Ryan?
That's a
what
good
do you
question.
want to do?
I just want to do silly stuff and put myself out there a little bit more. I'm excited to like, I've kind of been on an island, I think, with like Big Grande and our little controlled space. But I want to like collaborate with new people and just kind of be funny on my own for a little bit and
Here in your apartment?
Yeah.
No audience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, just kind of like, I guess for me, I don't have a preference of like exactly what it is, just a more willingness to like self-express, whatever that is in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of my time has been like, how can I fit in? And now I'm like, well, who cares about fitting in? What do I want to say?
Yeah. And
it's more about like asking myself that question every day and saying whatever comes up rather than like choosing it, like
improvising.
I'm more interested in seeing how I feel every day or whatever, rather than being like, this is who I am.
Yeah, you're being a good scene partner to yourself.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You plugged Big Grande. Anything else you want to plug?
I also have another improv podcast called ManDogPod. That's just me and Dan Lippert and a million other funny improvisers that are awesome. And it's a blast every week. We just like do improv off of conversations, and that's cool. And BigGrandeWebsite.com and Rosenberg on all the social stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you for...
Thank you, Susie.
I was going to say for being here. Thank you for staying here.
Of course. Anytime. I will be here for the foreseeable future.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. If you have a question about improv that you would like me to ask a future guest, email it to yesalsopod@gmail.com and I will get it on the show. If you're a fan of the show, follow us on Instagram @yesalsopod. And please help us out by liking, rating, reviewing, clicking, sending, talking, and blasting us to your improv communities. That will help us out a lot. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A huge shout out to Ryan Rosenberg, who produced this thing with his generous help and his unlimited knowledge about all things podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Susie. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.